Episode 3 of Uncanny, I have just caught up with it. It smashed it out of the park. What a creepy and intriguing episode. I'm going to talk about it, so if you haven't seen it but you want to, please scroll on past. This episode focused on a shadow figure, and I found that quite relevant because I have experienced something, not quite the same way that this poor chap did, but I have experienced seeing a shadow figure in the bedroom. Again, could be night terrors. I don't suffer from them, but I know there are scientific explanations behind that. But it was really interesting to hear this account of a tall shadow figure that was seemingly watching him both in his house, outside, and the fact that this person had witnesses who also saw this figure, which is extremely validating. Well, there aren't such things as mass hallucinations, but it's very strange to have, you know, his mum having the same hallucination when he was a child. He wakes up screaming, seeing this figure in the room, and his mum wakes up, and rather than comforting him, she also starts screaming. That would be absolutely terrifying. And when he was out with friends, they could see this dark figure, then they said there was literally no light in this body. It was darker than dark, and they could see it kind of just standing there watching them. I thought it was really fascinating that stories of shadow figures permeate across all sorts of cultures. Danny Robbins made reference to, I believe it was Native American, Japanese, Irish cultures, all talking about shadow people. So that was absolutely fascinating. Is it that our human brains produce these images under certain conditions, or is it a real phenomenon? It's really fascinating, terrifying, but fascinating. I love the fact that they did an experiment to try and create a Brocken spectre by moonlight. A Brocken spectre is usually created from sunlight and sort of low mist. A great example is the Grey Man of Ben McDewey, which I've done some research on, which is also quite creepy, but looks incredible in the photos when you see what the Brocken spectre actually appears like. And they did manage to recreate a very tall shadow figure using Danny Robbins with sort of fake moonlight and a fog machine. I think 3 people had initially witnessed this shadow entity, and when they recreated it with the experiment, 2 of the chaps basically said it was great, like you could see this shadow figure of Danny's, however, you could see through it, and you could see it was that fog and mist, whereas the entity they saw was just absolutely solid black, and they couldn't see any light through it. It sounded like the activity escalated, so there were objects moving, locked cabinet doors opening. Now, he had had some very sad things happen in his life. He had gone through periods of grief. After his mum passed away, he had gone back to the house that evening, and he was sitting downstairs, and he heard footsteps going up the stairs and saw this figure walking up the stairs, and he could hear it walking into his mum's room. Now, I believe that grief can cause our brains to do some very strange things. I am not someone who has ever had hallucinations. However, after my border collie passed away, not the little chap that we've got now, but my girl, when she passed away, I have seen her twice in this house since. And one of the times I actually thought it was Oshi coming to see what I was doing. I was hanging some clothes washing up, and I stuck my head back round the corner and saw him fast asleep. It made me check to see if it was him, but I recognised it as Melon. And as I say, I'm not somebody who suffers from hallucinations, so was that her visiting me, or was my brain seeing her because I've missed her so much? Now, I'm not negating his experience. He definitely experienced something, but was it born out of grief on that particular occasion? I don't really think so, though, because then he's talking about things escalating even more to the point that he could feel breath on his face, and one time it scared him so much he tried to get out of the house and he went into his car, and this thing was just there with him, breathing on him, which is terrifying and it's horrible. And one time he feels like he was hit. Now, could you hallucinate strongly enough to feel like someone had hit you? Probably, but that's probably quite an exception. If there's any medical people out there who know differently, please tell me. I would love to learn. So yes, it was an absolutely creepy, fascinating episode. And the fact that the person who currently lives in the house has had some kind of experience since being in the house, not quite the same way, it adds weight to what he experienced. And it sounds absolutely awful. I can't even imagine going through something like that. But I'm intrigued to know what you thought. If you have seen it, please let me know, and let me know whether you think that he did really come into contact with an entity of some description, or whether it's just the human brain doing very strange things, as we know that it's capable of doing. Let me know. Hope you're good. Have a good week.